Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining the Nonprofit Learning Lab's free online webinar. You are currently participating in sponsorship growth for your nonprofit. Questions are encouraged throughout the webinar, and you can type them into the question box as they arise, and they'll be read by me, our moderator. My name is Tori, and I'm here representing the Nonprofit Learning Lab today. Your presenter today is Melissa Lagowski. Melissa created the Big Buzz Idea Group in November 2004 so nonprofits would have an honest outsourcing partner to bring their largest projects to life. After raising nearly $6 million for clients, Melissa is dedicated to providing full operational support that will allow charitable organizations to run more effectively. With 26 years of corporate and nonprofit experience, she has launched and executed large fundraisers, conceived several innovative and lucrative programs, coordinated a variety of dinners, award functions, and organized numerous conferences and workshops. Her largest project to date is RibFest Chicago, where she is responsible for every facet of the event, including festival promotion, sponsorship development, entertainment booking, and vendor management. Having begun with 5,000 attendees, the event now draws 70,000 people annually and was featured on Food Network's Eating America with Anthony Anderson. Melissa graduated from Ohio University with a Bachelor of Science in Journalism. Her program emphasis was public relations and event planning. I will now hand it over to you, Melissa.
Thank you, Tori. So honored to be here this morning and talk about sponsorship growth for your nonprofit. A little bit about Big Buzz Idea Group. We know that many nonprofit executives lack the time, staff, skills, and funding they need to succeed. Big Buzz Idea Group fills gaps in management, marketing, and events so you can focus on the big picture and position your organization to thrive. Through that opportunity, we have garnered a lot of sponsorship experience and excited to bring our knowledge here to you today. Big Buzz Idea Group fuels nonprofit organizations to fuel positive change in the world. I want to tell you just a brief history of where my sponsorship started. I was 12 years old, and I'm dating myself a little bit. Many of you might remember the Jerry Lewis Telethon. They had a program where you could write in for a carnival kit that you could host at home to raise money for muscular dystrophy. At the age of 12, I did this in my small town with a few of my school friends. We went to all of the businesses in our community and solicited donations and contributions to make the festival a success. And I think that we ended up raising just a few $100s to submit for the cause. Fast forward to 1999, when I became the executive director for a nonprofit that had a street festival they were launching. And now over the last 20 years, I've been able to work with all of the brands that you see here. It really is incredible to be able to say that we have worked with so many fabulous companies, and all of it is just from really the school of hard knocks and figuring out how to do sponsorship on my own. So I'm going to try to cover a lot of ground today in a short amount of time, and I do hope that at the end, if anybody does want to follow up, if you need more details about any of this information, please don't hesitate to reach out to me, because we are going to go rather quickly today. So sponsorship is a person, firm, or company that supports an event, team, or organization through a monetary commitment or a product service donation in exchange for business exposure and or a chance to connect with potential customers. Companies sponsor for a variety of reasons, and each one is unique. Some will sponsor for brand visibility, simply trying to expand their reach. Some is brand introduction, when a company might be launching a new product or service. Consumer connection, lots of times companies may want to reach your audience. It might be the right fit. Lead generation, some sponsors will want to be able to get leads to be able to continue to work on some direct sales initiatives, thus leading into direct sales as the next bullet. Sometimes it's about goodwill and corporate social responsibility, which is a big initiative for a lot of companies these days. Sometimes it's reaching niche audiences, might be just offering community support, employee engagement. A lot of the companies, the larger companies, will often support their employees and the causes that are important to their employees. So you might be able to leverage sponsorship introductions and referrals through that option. Often it can be for promotion and media exposure through a selected partner. Occasionally it will be for audience insights. They want information that your audience might be able to provide. And sometimes it's about thought leadership based on your organization and the events that you're trying to solicit sponsorship for. These days, almost anything can be sponsored. So it's very common for a lot of companies to support events. They might sponsor your awards. They can sponsor a donor wall at your organization. Might be a computer lab or an alternative initiative that you're working on. It could be the vehicles that your program utilizes on a regular basis. Maybe it's rooms, fields, or courts with your organization, depending on what services you offer. It could be sponsoring entertainment at your largest event annually. Perhaps it's providing meals for volunteers or staff during certain periods of the year. Maybe you'll have a technology sponsor who provides all of your iPads that you need to run your organization. You can sponsor a retreat. They could sponsor your volunteer program, perhaps your annual video for your annual fundraiser. It could be direct service items, the number of beds that you provide a year, the number of meals, or the number of backpacks. It could even be breakout rooms in Zoom. I think the creativity is the name of the game, and in the last year we've had to do some pivoting and some adjusting, but these days, again, almost anything can be branded with sponsor activations. To be successful, you really want to have a strong sponsorship package, and many people may not know what goes into that package. Generally, it's going to be a cover letter, an introduction, and a warm summary of your particular project or program or organization. You want to provide organizational information to your sponsor outreaches, including things like your history, why the work you do matters, and what exactly your goals are. What are you trying to accomplish, and how successful have you been in the past? Sponsors like to get on board with successful organizations. So if you can show a few bullet points about what you've accomplished, you're likely to get your foot in the door a little faster. I recommend putting some data into your package, maybe a nice infographic that's visually appealing, that creates some of those best success bullets into digestible chunks that a sponsor can see quickly and easily see your success. You'll want to have a sponsorship outline with some options of what people can sponsor for, and then include the form so that they can sign up and understand some of the rules and regulations that your organization might have relative to sponsorship. The most successful packages are going to be strong on storytelling. You've got to remember that a lot of these companies are getting a lot of outreach and requests. So you really want to do the work to make your package be visually appealing. It doesn't need to be fancy. It doesn't need to be over the top, because after all, you are a nonprofit organization, but you do want it to be solid, look clean, look crisp, and just have a nice, a nice amount of pictures, because pictures really do tell a lot of your story and can help people start to see your organization in a better light. Include those demographics, the statistics that you've accomplished, the impact that you've made. If you can measure your impact, and I know a lot of organizations are now doing impact reports opposed to annual reports. So if you have information on the impact you're making, it's a great way to get a sponsor connected to you. Again, share your goals. Really, I think that sponsors want to know what you're trying to accomplish. They want to know what your grand vision is, and then they want to know why the work you do matters. And most of these sponsors want to see themselves partnering with strong organizations that are doing great work. And all of this, how you present your story, helps tremendously in getting your foot in the door and forging the relationships that you need for a successful sponsorship relationship. You can present the information in a variety of ways. This is one project that we worked on, and I'm going to show just a few examples of what I'm talking about and how you tell your story, so that visually you can just start to see the difference in a very quick snapshot. This particular presentation is what the client was using originally. Very text heavy, not a lot of pictures. We got involved and we started to really change how we were presenting their story. And these pictures were all direct pictures from their community. They weren't stock photos. They were direct people in the neighborhood. And it really started to show how the neighborhood was, very food, beverage, and entertainment centric. And it started to show their highlights. We made the statistics very digestible and a quick, easy read rather than a lot of text. This kept the interest of people reviewing this package so that they could just see all of this information at a glance. And it's far easier versus if you think about a sponsor, a marketing director or a sponsorship coordinator that's getting hundreds of packages in the course of a week, right? To have to read a lot of text is very labor intensive. This format allows the information to be gleaned very quickly and helps to create a package that I think stands out in the heap. You can absolutely adapt the presentation though to match your organization. This is another example for another one of our projects whereby we again have a lot of pictures from the organization. These are all strong women in the community that are well known, that really show and give a face to the organization, along with capitalizing on the high level statistics of why the organization exists and why their work matters. This is yet another example of a festival that we have worked on. Again, it really gives the summary of the organization on the front with the statistics on the back and just a little bit more information, but the pictures help it come to life. Again, this was a simple postcard and a simple outreach, but it really spoke volumes to the event. There are a couple of sponsorship theories in the world. And I think that, there's the standard package. A standard package is generally a lot more generalized. It's going to have your story encapsulated in the formats that I've just shown you. And it's going to be a bit more like a kit. Maybe it's a standard cover letter. And then it's going to have your standard packages outlined with the multiple choice opportunities for the different levels that a sponsor can get involved. I like this format for a lot of nonprofits because I think that you don't always have time to know what level a sponsor might be considering. You're often trying to reach a lot of people at one time. If you have a larger development department and you can do more direct outreach, then you might want to do a little bit more of the customized packages. Those are very targeted. They have a specific ask, a single focus, and often a large price tag. The example I like to utilize to make customized packages kind of stand out is a baseball stadium. If you have a baseball stadium in your community, often you're going for a company like a large cellular company or a large mortgage company. So you're really going after one entity, maybe one of your largest banks, asking them for naming rights. And that's how you end up with things like Guaranteed Rate Field or T-Mobile Stadium and things of that nature. So the standardized packages, I still believe most nonprofits should be using these, but you still do want to do some customization with your offerings, and we will talk about that a little bit more in a couple of slides. So you can still have a general outline, which allows, if you are working with board members, if you are working with a whole development department or a whole staff in your organization, if you are a small organization and maybe have one large event where it's all hands on deck, the beauty of the standardized packages also allows everybody to just know the basics for what you can offer at what level. You can still make tweaks and customize based on specific needs for sponsors, but this starts to give you some benchmark guidelines so that everybody's utilizing the same packages, the same offerings, and being consistent across your organization, which I think is really important. You want to start to create an asset inventory. When you offer your packages on your creating your sponsorship programs, you really want to know what you have of value to offer to your sponsors and partners. And so usually speaking opportunities are a high level offering and something that a lot of sponsors really want. They want to know about your email reach. How many people are in your email list? How many people are opening your ongoing messages? And what's your connectivity? that can be very valuable for a lot of sponsors to get in directly with the people you serve. Also, your social media reach is another great thing to take stock of. The number of volunteers, again, if you have volunteer shirts or volunteer programs, some sponsors will deliver nice packages to your volunteers, and that can give the bandwidth for your volunteers to promote your sponsors for many years to come. I have so many event t-shirts where I'm still promoting sponsors from 20 years ago out in the community. The number of attendees at your event, it makes a big difference. You know, you may have 200 very high profile attendees, or you may have 50,000 attendees. Depending on your particular sponsor, both of those numbers and those metrics can make a difference depending on what you know about the demographic of that audience. So attendees are another valuable metric. Other visibility opportunities, including social, any other media opportunities on television, radio, interviews, and things that might come with your event can be very valuable. Displays at the event, it might be an exhibit hall booth, some participation in the expo, or it might be, again, a display, you know, in the footprint of your event. The number of tickets that you can offer a sponsor can be of value. We have one sponsor we've worked with for many years that not only do they get some free tickets, but they also purchase additional tickets, and they utilize the project as a way to host their sales reps' clients. And so they make a mini event within the event, and that is of great value to them and has created a win-win relationship for both the nonprofit and the sponsor for many years now. The posters, flyers, and other printed materials that you will be creating can also be of value to your partners. Again, I talked about volunteer shirts and how they can be worn for many years. Invitation inclusion, signage, and then website banners and ads can also be valuable assets that you can offer to your partners and continue to add value for their sponsorship dollars. There are multiple opportunities and ways for you to format how you present this information. I've chosen a couple of samples here to show the grid format, which I think can be very nice in being able to really help sponsors see what is included and what is not at the various levels. I think it gives a nice high-level snapshot and allows people to quickly compare and contrast the different packages. Some sponsors, however, do prefer a more detailed bulleted out format, as you see on the side here. We have created both of these formats. They offer the exact same information, but to this case in point, we have seen sponsors react very differently to both of these. Some prefer one method, some prefer the other. We like to provide both to try to increase the number of sponsors we are solidifying. And just because that's really tiny print, I know you've got the PDF of the presentation today, but I want to just cover here a little bit about, for you to see this a little bit more up close. And then I've also included an outline that shows you the bulleted options as well. We have a high-level event we've been working on pre-COVID, and this particular one includes both options again. And what I love about this is that it also included pictures of the sponsorship activation opportunities in the sponsor kit. It helps the sponsors to start to envision what the activation might look like and whether or not they can see themselves participating. Again, you want to be able to show what's included with the sponsorship. You can quickly look at this sampling and see that the silver sponsorship starts to offer a lot more. And so it seems to be a strong value as a mid-level point, and then you see how it increases from there. I think these types of opportunities are great. And again, just making it very easy for your sponsor to see how they want to get involved and where the differences are. I want to quickly cover a few best practices, and then we'll open it up to questions during the last portion of our time. I think that when you start with a sponsorship and you get a meeting recorded, you always want to ask the sponsor what their goals are. It's very natural for us to come at it that we're trying to sell them on what we want to accomplish. But if you find out what their goals are, you can look at your entire program and identify what pieces of your program will match with their goals best to start to create a customized package. Again, you can use your standardized packages, but you can tweak by subtracting or adding certain pieces to make it a better fit for the sponsor's goals. This starts to formulate a very strong partnership that you can build on for years to come. Customize packages to meet the sponsor goals. Again, you want to use those standardized packages to have a baseline, but then you do want to adjust and adapt so that you can make it most impactful for your sponsors. When you're a good partner to them, they're going to be with you for years to come. And it's always easier to grow a sponsor relationship than to continue to find new ones. So important that you are not giving away your benefits. We have watched our clients often give away some of the high-level benefits that we sell at the largest level. And if you're giving them away, they have no reason to then contribute dollars to you. So please be cautious not to give away your benefits and make sure that you are holding firm that those value, that the value of those benefits has a cost, and you want to get those sponsors involved so that they can participate. I also think, again, I've talked about it, but you want to be consistent. It's important that you have some standards and some parameters so that you can treat your partners fairly and don't play favorites. Be sure to document your customized packages. What might seem very clear and memorable right here, right now, today, could become a little foggy in 3 months. So once you make those customizations, it's important that you write it out. It doesn't have to be a complicated agreement. It can be 1 page and then have both parties sign it. But it just, again, re-emphasizes what you've agreed to, and make sure you have it in writing so that if your sponsor contact is gone in 3 months, or if you don't remember, that you have a roadmap to follow and remind everybody what the agreement was. And then again, making sure that both parties sign it. This has proven to be incredibly valuable for many of our clients over time, because that makes sure that there's a way to hold everybody accountable, even if the players in the equation might change, but the signed agreement still holds up. Be wary of sponsorships that cost you money. In my early days, we had a lot of companies that would try to sell us advertising at discounted rates, and that's not a true sponsorship. It wasn't advertising we needed or would otherwise purchase, and so it was a cost to our budget, which we did not want to endure. I encourage you to really be wary of those kinds of partnerships because they're less than ideal, and any in-kind partners you work with should really relieve a portion of your budget to add value to your program. Be sure to set up in-kind valuation parameters so that, again, you know how you're going to value those contributions that are donated, and that you can just do it consistently across the platform again. And then I encourage you to develop policies for the following: data sharing and/or privacy of your members or attendees. Many sponsors will want to obtain contact lists. Many organizations do not want to release those contact lists. So when you have a policy on the front end, it helps you be able to answer those requests to your partners. Or sometimes you may be able to find a way to give limited access or partial access, but it's good to know that on the front end. Again, sponsorships need to align with your mission and values, and finding partners that do make for the strongest relationships. Again, these days, there's a lot of vaping, a lot of cannabis organizations out there. You should know on the front end, is that a good fit with your organization? Some organizations, alcohol partners may not be a good fit. So be clear on what your values are on the front end, and always be reviewing all opportunities through that lens. And finally, again, if sponsorships are not adding value to your event or your organization, I know it can be hard, but don't be afraid to say no. You have a value and you have an obligation to uphold the standards of your organization, so you really want to be able to shy away from those that are not adding direct value. And with that, that concludes the presentation this morning. I'm happy to answer any questions that might have come in.
Great, thank you so much, Melissa. So we have a question coming in asking, how can you show donor impact when your organization's impact is hard to share visually?
So I think that that's a great question. And I think sometimes you have to get a little creative. We have a lot of projects that we have done whereby they may be on an open street in the city of Chicago. And so it can be very difficult to measure that impact. But how you're utilizing the funds raised can sometimes help you tell your story. Sometimes it may be about, even a single success story or a single picture about a success story can help that come to life. I think that, sometimes it's the programs. I can think of one of our clients that we've worked with whereby, they're trying to get homeless people off the streets. And while they may not always have great success, but to be able to show how one life was dramatically impacted by their efforts really helps people see the impact of that work. So get creative, and I'm happy to connect with you offline and talk more about your particular situation if you'd like to take me up on that opportunity.
Wonderful. So our next question is asking, or saying rather, we work with companies that love sending volunteers. How do we transition them to also helping our nonprofit financially, more in a sponsorship kind of relationship?
So I think that's a great opportunity right there. When you have volunteers who are coming from a company and they are already getting involved, sometimes if you forge a relationship with those volunteers, it's a great way to start a conversation about what other opportunities might exist within that company. We've seen programs where they will do matching donation funds. We've seen, Salesforce had a program whereby they will donate to organizations that their volunteers submit a request to them, to support that organization. And then asking those volunteers, even if it's a volunteer coordinator that you've got a relationship with, request a meeting and just ask. I think early on, I lacked the confidence to just ask the questions. I felt very salesy. It felt very slimy, and it was hard. But the more I did it, the more it got very comfortable. And so asking your volunteer coordinator at the company if they can introduce you to somebody who might be able to help, create a sponsorship package, asking them if they've got ideas about how you could level up your partnership. Those are all great ideas. And sometimes we just have to get out of our own way and make the ask, and those introductions will easily follow.
This question is kind of related to that second half of your answer. Lisa is asking, how do you get that initial meeting? Do you ask for the social outreach department? You mentioned a volunteer coordinator.
Yeah, I think that's a great question. And so it can be different for all organizations. I think some of you may be working with small businesses in your area. Some of you may be working with large corporations. The large corporations can be a little bit harder. But, usually you want to be looking for, it can be a sponsorship coordinator. It can be a marketing director. Some of you may have initiatives where you even want to go to a diversity officer. We have some clients where that is our greatest success, is going in and talking to the diversity team about what they are supporting. Sometimes it might be HR that coordinates those volunteer outreach opportunities. Surprisingly, we've had a couple of projects where we've been introduced to the HR team because they really do oversee a lot of that because it's directly employee driven. And so again, lots of times it is doing your homework, making the calls and asking the questions. And I think the other thing that is very useful too is asking your board members if they know anybody at companies you want to get into, because any introduction to get you inside of an organization and then navigate the system is going to be more valuable than cold calls. I was on another presentation recently and really talking about the importance of those warm introductions is just huge. So those are my recommendations.
Wonderful, thank you. We have a question coming in from Evan asking, do you have any experience doing sponsorships for trade associations as opposed to charities? Do you recommend different best practices in those cases?
I really don't. I do have the experience. I don't recommend much difference. We are working in a trade association, and I think, again, really looking at how those companies within your association want to get exposure, or partners who want to reach those in your association. We work with the National Association of Women Business Owners. It's a great example of where we've seen a lot of success within the diversity initiative. And we're always trying to find companies that really are good for women business owners. So finding the strategic alignment is incredibly valuable for your association work. But I think trade associations have really the same offerings and the same opportunities, and I recommend all of the same best practices.
Great. This is going to be our last question as we've just about come to time here. This is a question from Mike asking, bronze, silver, and gold seem so generic for tier options. Any suggestions or ideas to freshen it up?
I like to get a little bit creative. We've talked a little bit about Rib Fest this morning, and so we played on the rib theme, and we had like the half slab, full slab, the taster, the sampling, and so really depending on kind of your project or your event, I think it can be a little bit fun to try to tie it into a theme or what you're doing. Sometimes, the gold, silver, bronze really does just translate better because sometimes simple is best. But sometimes when you have the opportunity to apply creativity, I think it can be fun. And I think it's another great opportunity to help your organization, project, or event stand out on the landscape.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. And Mike says awesome. Thank you as well. Well, this is all the time that we have for today. I want to thank you, Melissa, and announce that this is the formal end to our workshop. For our attendees, all the materials and recordings will be available on our website. In addition to being uploaded to our backend, you'll receive an email about that by the end of the day tomorrow, so you can access all this great information. Thank you so much for participating in sponsorship growth for your nonprofit. And again, thank you, Melissa, for educating our community.
Thank you, Tori. Have a great day.
You too.